The Broncos are back, preparing for the game of the year for them this Sunday, facing the Kansas City Chiefs. 8-2 Broncos going against the 5-4 Kansas City Chiefs. And we heard from players in the locker room talking about the Chiefs. A lot on that in a second, but let's start with who was not practicing for the Broncos to start this week off, preparing against the Kansas City Chiefs. And Pat Surtain was not out there. When Pat Surtain got hurt a couple of weeks ago, there was hope that he would be back for the Kansas City Chiefs game. And from him not practicing and what I'm told, it does not appear that Pat is going to be back this Sunday, unfortunately, for the Broncos, having to face Patrick Mahomes. Rashee Rice is back as well. Travis Kelce leads the NFL in receiving tight end yards by a tight end. He is not going to be there, I don't expect, and so that's going to be a big blow for the Broncos. Now, Pat Surtain will have a bye week the following week to get healthy to be back against the Commanders on Sunday Night Football, but it does not appear that Pat Surtain is going to be out there for the Broncos this week. We'll continue to follow this week to see if he comes back on the practice field, but right now, early indications are that he will not be back. A guy that will be back, Marvin Mims, and boy, this is going to be huge for the Broncos' special teams and for their offense. We know how dynamic Marvin Mims can be. In fact, the last time the Broncos played the Chiefs, Marvin Mims had 2 touchdowns. Of course, that was Week 18 last year when the Broncos booked their ticket to the playoffs. Marvin Mims is going to be a big factor in this game, especially with some limited options at other places on the Broncos offense, which we'll get to in just a second. But this is a very positive indication that Marvin Mims is progressing all the way through the concussion protocol and will be able to do that by the end of the week. So I do expect to see Marvin Mims out there against the Chiefs. A guy that's very much in question of playing, which is a huge blow for the Broncos, is J.K. Dobbins. He did not practice to start this week, and the Broncos preparing for the Chiefs, and that is a big blow for the Broncos because J.K. Dobbins has arguably been their most valuable player on the offensive side of the ball. He's been very healthy this season up until he was hip drop tackled by the Raiders in Thursday Night Football. He was very upset about it after the game, went on social media, was very extra upset about it. Then after the game, he said he was fine, but it seems like further testing has popped something up. It looks like a foot injury. He was getting a second opinion, and Sean Payton said he didn't have any update on it today, but that there will be more clarity. When asked if the Broncos are still considering putting him on injured reserve, Sean said nothing has been decided yet, which is scary. Here's the timeline to look for when it comes to Marvin Mims, or when it comes to J.K. Dobbins. Does he practice on Thursday or Friday? And if not, does he get put on the injured reserve on Saturday? Saturday's the big day for injured reserve. If he does not get put on IR on Saturday, then that's very positive news. He will not be put on IR. If he does not practice Thursday and Friday, that's very concerning news that he will not play against the Kansas City Chiefs. So need to see number 27 out there in the next couple of days, and that would be big news for the Broncos. Right now, not looking so good. The replacement for J.K. Dobbins will be R.J. Harvey, and Sean Payton told us after practice today, just flat out, we will see more R.J. Harvey this week, which is exciting for R.J. Harvey. And we've seen R.J. Harvey have a big role the past month for the Broncos. He's really developed into Sean Payton's joker for this offense. And a joker, of course, is a tight end or a running back that is a good receiver out of the backfield or out of that tight end position. And R.J. Harvey just hasn't been a good receiver out of the backfield. He's been an elite receiver out of the backfield, leads rookie running backs in touchdowns as a receiver this year. He's got 4 of them right now. In fact, he's up on the list of just rookies anywhere in touchdown catches this year with 4, just trailing a couple of guys. He's been so dynamic, but Sean Payton's confident that he can be more than just a receiver out of the backfield. He said, when we drafted him, you have to remember, we drafted him because of his running abilities, and boy, was he a damn good runner at UCF. 3,000 rushing yards in his final 2 seasons, 1,500 rushing yards in 2 years, plus 40 touchdowns. That is insane production from a running back. Then they discovered how good of a receiver he was. So I know Broncos country's a little worried. How will the Broncos replace J.K. Dobbins? They believe they have the answer right there with R.J. Harvey, and all signs indicate that he is going to be relied on heavily against the Chiefs. And man, what a time to have a breakout game against the Kansas City Chiefs. Courtland Sutton said they call R.J. Harvey ATH. referring to an athlete. And of course, that's how some guys are designated coming out of high school into college, because you're not a receiver, you're not a running back, you're not a kick returner. You can do it all. And that's what the Broncos call RJ Harvey. So be prepared to see him all over the field and truly take on that Joker role for the Broncos. And as a runner as well, everyone's confident in him. Bo Nix is confident in him. Cortland Sutton's confident in him. Sean Payton's confident in him. Expect a big role for him. A guy that we've seen take a big jump in his role recently. Troy Franklin. In the past month, Troy Franklin leads the Broncos in targets. Yes, that includes Cortland Sutton. He has more targets than Cortland Sutton in the past month here. He's really developed into a major weapon for the Broncos. And Sean Payton was asked about why that's the case, and Sean Payton pointed to a couple of things. One, he said just how explosive he is, and we all know how explosive he can be. The other thing, he said we all saw Marvin Mims take that big year 2 step last year. That's what we're seeing from Troy Franklin this year. And I'll tell you what, I was at training camp every single practice. We saw Troy take that step in training camp. Saw him take a big step in the first couple of weeks of the season, and now he's taking that next step again. And I mentioned in the last 2 games of last year, Marvin Mims had 4 touchdowns. Maybe we start seeing that type of production from Troy Franklin fairly soon as he takes that next step right now. Another reason, Cortland Sutton is getting more attention to him. Defenses are giving safeties to him, and in some parts, the Broncos just have to adjust mid-game and say, Court, we can't go to you as much. We got to go to other guys. And I'll tell you what, Cortland Sutton's perspective on this is something special. We're seeing around the NFL right now, A.J. Brown, that some receivers are pissed when they don't get targeted, especially when they're the number one, when they don't rack up those stats. Cortland said, I'm so happy for my guys. When I see Marvin eat, when I see J.K. eat, when I see R.J. eat, when I see Troy eat, when I see Pat Bryant eat, when I see these other guys eat, I'm so happy for my receiver room. He could easily go the other way and start some beef with the Broncos. He's not doing that. He's being the leader that the Broncos need him to be. So really cool to see that mentality from Troy Franklin right there, or from Cortland Sutton right there about Troy Franklin. And another thing, one final thing on Troy Franklin. Sean said he's able to just run across the field and then turn up into routes, which is what makes him so special, because not a lot of guys can do that. Okay, moving on. Make sure, before we move on, to like, subscribe to this channel. Really supports us, and plus you'll get to see all the other Broncos updates throughout the week and on game day as well. One guy that the Broncos brought back today, little Jordan Humphrey, and that is Cortland Sutton's dog. He said he's so pumped to see him back here, and the Broncos bringing Lil Jordan back to Denver off the Giants practice squad. Sean Payton said Broncos, with the position they're in right now, at 8-2, they have the ability to go get more depth and really prepare for what seems to be a playoff run. And he said we need that depth right now. So Lil Jordan Humphrey going to be in there at depth. One significant note right now, a guy that he might just be filling the place of right now is Trent Sherfield. Trent Sherfield did not practice today. He's the receiving, or he's the blocking wide receiver for the Broncos. That's exactly the role that Lil Jordan plays. So expect him to play this Sunday against the Kansas City Chiefs. On a very, very different note, Alex Singleton, we know that he was diagnosed with cancer last week. He told the team on Monday. We finally got to be in the locker room and talk to some guys, talk to Sean Payton for the first time about their reaction to this. And it's nothing but love and support from the entire locker room, offense, defense, coaching staff to Alex Singleton. Sean Payton did say all of the initial results have come back positive. They caught it very, very early, and because of the Broncos' exceptional doctors, they were able to do the surgery on Friday. I asked Sean Payton, was he surprised when Alex Singleton told him that he wanted to play in Thursday night football game the day before having surgery? And he said that's just who he is. So Bo Nix, Cortland Sutton, Sean Payton in the Broncos locker room really putting their arms around Alex. And I know that Alex is spending every single day in the Broncos facility. He's a captain, and man, he is just showing it right now. He wants to be around these guys, and these guys want to show him the love because he is their captain. And the final note from today, I mentioned it earlier, Chiefs week. And this is the biggest Broncos game since maybe the end of 2016 season when they were trying to make a playoff push. Heck, you can even go back to the 2015 season. This is monstrous. And Bo Nix said This is why he plays in the NFL, is for games like this, to go up against the elite quarterbacks in the NFL like Patrick Mahomes. And one of the key things for this game is going to be his teammates getting after Patrick Mahomes. This season, Patrick Mahomes is 1-3 when he is pressured on 25% or more of his dropbacks. Good news for the Broncos, they have an NFL best 42.9% pressure rate. That is insane. That is well above the 25% needed to get after Mahomes and have that losing record continue for him. When Mahomes doesn't have that, he's 4-1 this season when he's pressured fewer than 25% of the time. That 42.9% pressure rate by the Broncos is the most since 2018 when Next Gen Stats started tracking this. So the Broncos literally the best pass rush that Next Gen Stats has ever seen, and that's going to be huge. Asked Nick Bonito about that, and Nick said, oh, it's going to be extra nice to get after Patrick Mahomes and get him to the ground. By the way, the Broncos are 4 sacks away from being one of only 3 teams in NFL history to have 50 or more sacks through their first 11 games. That's all they need. 4 sacks on Patrick Mahomes that probably get their pressure rate above that 25%. And man, the Broncos are stoked about this game. You have some part of the locker room saying it's a big game because it's the next game. You have some other parts of the locker room that are just simply being real about how big this game is. Nick Bonito said, look, the Chiefs have run this division, and they have. They've won the division since 2016. In order to really knock them off, we got to go through them. To make the AFC West ours, we got to go through the Chiefs, and that's exactly what the Broncos plan on doing on Sunday. If they get this win, they'll essentially almost be 4 games up of the division on Kansas City. That would essentially eliminate Kansas City from the division, and that would end their run on the AFC West title and give the Broncos a big opportunity to take it and run for home field advantage in the playoffs. Make sure to like and subscribe to this channel to follow all our Broncos content throughout the rest of the week into game day on Sunday and beyond.